right. Hi, everybody. My name is Betty Grab. I am the manager of cardiopulmonary services here at City of Hope Phoenix. Here to talk to you about Oxygen 101. So we're talking about traveling with oxygen, tips and tricks with your tank, tips and tricks with your home oxygen, and some questions that patients have fielded to me so I can answer those as well. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is traveling with oxygen. It is so possible for you to travel with oxygen. People think, oh, I'm on oxygen now, I'm going to be trapped at home, I'm going to be stuck, I can't go anywhere, I can't visit the grandkids, it's going to be a pain for me to go see family. It is possible. The one thing I do recommend that if you're on oxygen is first talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor about the safety and if it's okay for you to travel. That is first and foremost, most important that you do that. Second of all, what you need to do is you need to contact whoever you're traveling with, be it by plane, train, automobile, anything like that. You need to reach out to, for instance, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, American Airlines. You need to reach out to them, to their customer service number, and you let them know that you're on oxygen, either all the time or with activity, and what you should do. You cannot fly on an airplane with this guy here. You cannot. They will not let you board. It is completely unsafe for you to travel on an airplane with an oxygen tank. What you need to get a hold of is a portable oxygen concentrator, or something that we here call POC. And what that is, it's a small device. You've probably seen people out and about with them that actually generates oxygen from the air that we breathe. And it's battery operated. You hook your cannula to it and away you go. Now, people often ask us, is it possible for me to get a POC or portable oxygen concentrator for day-to-day use? Now, if you're a Medicare patient, they can pay for part of it, but there is a big process to go through it to have it all the time you reach your destination, and you can use it while you're out and about. So that is a huge thing to consider. Another thing to remember is always have your oxygen prescription with you. But this way you have proof that you have a doctor's prescription for oxygen, how many liters you should be wearing, and how often you should be wearing it. So always keep that prescription with you. It's a good thing to have. Size that we send people home with. They can provide you with enough oxygen tanks while you're at your destination if you should need them at the airport. And then you can actually get them delivered wherever you're going. But again, you have to carry this around, you have to change the regulator, all that stuff that you need to do. So a POC is the best option, not the cheapest, but the best option. Same thing when you're cruising, because obviously cruises, especially if you're leaving somewhere and going out of country, you definitely need a lot more oxygen. Again, reach out to the airline because you have to fly where you're going to go unless you can drive to California or Texas. But you need to reach out to the airline again. Reach out to the cruise company that you're cruising with because they have stipulations and regulations as well. So that's really important that you do that. And then again, this is where a POC is really beneficial because you don't need to have any extra oxygen tanks to take with you. Again, you can't take them on the airplane, and trying to coordinate everything with getting a tank at your port and then your different ports of call, it's a challenge. So that's where a POC is definitely a great option to rent or purchase. Now, people think, oh, I can travel in a car, it's no big deal. Well, actually, there's a lot of safety features that you have to remember when you're traveling in the car. Number one, if you're here in Arizona and you live here, you're traveling here to City of Hope or anything like that, it gets hot. I know that's not a newsflash to anybody, but it gets hot here. So if you have to store extra tanks in the car anywhere that it gets warm, we recommend that you don't do that. If it's for a short period of time, that's fine, but make sure the windows are cracked. These tanks, they do get hot. There's a compressed gas in there, and they won't necessarily blow up, but there's going to be a lot of pressure behind that. So when you're traveling in the car, please make sure that your tank is not in a very hot environment. And again, remember, summertime anywhere. Inside that car, it's a lot hotter inside than it is outside. So please be conscientious of your tanks in there. Please don't keep them in there. Take as many as you need, but don't take a big supply. For instance, I know I need 2 tanks for whatever I'm going to do today. That's what you're going to have to do. Don't bring a third just in case. Don't bring a fourth because that third one may run out. Just really focus on how much oxygen you're going to need and bring those tanks that you need. Other thing to remember, excuse me, is while you're traveling in a car, make sure that the windows are cracked, because again, this is a compressed gas, just to get the airflow going. And sometimes patients, and as myself and as an asthmatic, I need airflow. So that's a good thing to have too. It's just a crack. You don't have to have the window all the way down when it's 28 degrees in Chicago. So just something so air flows. The other thing is smoking. Do not have anybody in the vehicle with you that will smoke. You should not be smoking yourself. Definitely your passengers or whoever's driving or anybody in the car with you should not be smoking. A lot of questions I get about oxygen is that it's going to burst into flames. Oxygen isn't like that. Oxygen is not flammable, but it loves flame and fire. So what it does is support combustion. So if there's a spark from a cigarette, a fire, a campfire, a barbecue, anything like that, it loves flames. So you need to stay far away from flames and smoking and all that stuff, because this supports combustion. So if there's just a spark, this can turn into a big flare. Other questions I get about traveling with oxygen is altitude. And living here in Arizona, we have different changes in altitude. Same thing in Colorado and all those other places where you're going to be above 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet. Remember that your oxygen in those types of altitudes, you're going to need a little bit more than what you're accustomed to. And it's just like flying in an airplane. Once you get to a certain altitude, the oxygen that we breathe in this air that's surrounding me is 21% oxygen. When you increase in altitude, your oxygen percentage decreases. So the higher you go, the less oxygen you have. Fortunately, in airplanes, they pressurize the cabins, but still you're only getting about 17 to 18% of oxygen. So a couple of percentages less than what you're breathing in this air now. So if you're an oxygen wearer and you're traveling, say for instance, you're going to Denver, which is a mile high city, and it's definitely higher in altitude. So your oxygen level will drop. And if you're already on oxygen, your oxygen level may drop even further. So that is another reason why you need to contact your doctor and say, hey, I'm going to be on an airplane. And we know airplanes travel anywhere from 30 to 40,000 feet, even more. So we know your oxygen is going to decrease. We know that if you go to Denver or Flagstaff or anywhere there's a high altitude, your oxygen level will drop. So your doctor may tell you that while you're flying or while you're traveling in the car in these high altitudes, you may want to increase your liter flow. And the doctor will highly recommend that you do so, but do it per the doctor's decision, not your own. Please don't ever take it in your own hands and say, oh, okay, I'm just going to turn it up to 3 liters because Betty said so. Betty did not say so. Just listen to your doctor. They're the ones that prescribe the oxygen. They're the ones that are going to make the recommendations. Okay, so we've talked about a few things about traveling. Oh, trains as well. So if you decide to make it be safe about it and you're going to take a train, it's the same thing. Reach out to Amtrak or whomever, whatever train company that you are going to be traveling with. They don't have as many stipulations as airlines do or cruise ships do, but they do have some guidelines as what you can bring on board. So again, reach out to them, they'll help you. So oxygen safety and questions I get is about this portion up here. There's a lot of confusion when you get your oxygen. We here at City of Hope Phoenix, we try to explain things as best as possible, but there are 950 things that are being thrown at you because you've had your doctor's appointment or you're discharged from inpatient or you just had surgery and you're getting all these instructions, people are talking to you, and then it's like, oh no, what do I do about my oxygen? Well, there's a couple of things. When you get discharged and you're given oxygen, a lot of times we will reach out to the home care company and you'll be set up at home. So somebody from a certain home care company or DME or durable medical equipment company will come out and give you oxygen tanks, give you a compressor so that you can generate oxygen and not have to suck all your tanks dry. So this comes with a key. So these you should have in abundance. I always walk around the hospital with one in my pocket because this is what turns on and off the tank. So you're going to need a key. It is called a tank key. You'll have a regulator, and this is what indicates how much pressure is in the tank and what liter flow you have. So what you're going to do, so this is your regulator, okay? This is a part of what comes with your home care stuff. And the colors may be different. It doesn't mean anything whether or not it's yellow or red or burgundy or blue. They come in a variety of colors. Most importantly, and I will show you up here, you have this lovely little thing up here. It's a tank washer. Don't take this tank washer out because you think it's in the way. This is very important to make a seal between the regulator and the tank. Sometimes these can fracture or just be used too much and get flat and cause a leak. If that happens, you need to reach out to your home care company. But it's this little brass ring right in there that you can see that makes the seal between the tank and the regulator. So you're going to take your regulator and make sure that you have these prongs lined up in here. There's 2 on the bottom, 2 small ones, and 1 larger one here. These align with what's on the tank. This tank, there's also the big hole, and then the 2 on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is put my regulator on like so. Slip it in and align the holes and hand tighten it. Don't be aggressive and over tighten it because you're going to smash that brass ring inside there and get a leak. So once the tank is locked on or tightened on with the regulator, you can take your tank key, and some of these are really great that I've seen patients have, and it says open and close, so you know which way. Back in the day, when I was a respiratory therapy student, so some 32 years ago, they taught us righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Same thing applies to tanks. So I'm going to pop it on. I'm going to turn it to the right, and the tank is now on. And on this knob right here, and you don't have to see the numbers or anything, but there is this knob right here. This is your pressure gauge. So this is what's going to tell you how full your tank is or how empty your tank is. We always recommend that when the needle hits the red, that's when you should change out your tank. Don't wait. Don't try to save it till every last little puff of oxygen because you can run into trouble. You know, you may need to use more oxygen. Something may happen where you have a leak. Don't wait until you hit that because we are told, even as respiratory therapists, don't let it go below 500. So that's what we also convey to our patients. And when you're ready to turn it on, you have this knob over the side. The knobs may vary also, but they should have all the numbers, and you just turn it to where your number displays of your liter flow. So for instance, you're on 2 liters, I'm just going to turn it. And now I'm officially on 2 liters. Okay, so that's pretty much it. But it can be confusing, you know, when you come home from the hospital and you have all these directions thrown at you, and your home care company just drops off some tanks and say, you know, goodbye, you know, here's your oxygen. It's good to know, and it's good to have this video to kind of fall back on so you know what to do. And then your oxygen will hook up to this little nipple on the side of it, and you're set. So again, if you're short of breath or anything, please don't adjust your liter flow without talking to your doctor. If you're extremely short of breath while on oxygen, please call 911, especially if you notice discoloration in your fingers where you're starting to turn blue or starting to notice the blue around the lips, around the nostrils, or even the ears. That is the time, you know, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Don't wait for your doctor's office. Immediately call 911. Okay. Another thing I really recommend for our home oxygen patients is the pulse ox. I don't have one in my pocket, and I normally do, but your basic pulse oximeter, you can get those anywhere. If you're a patient here at City of Hope Phoenix, we sell them at our outpatient pharmacy. They can run about $20 to $60. Don't spend anything else. There are some out there on the market, but those are meant more for in-hospital use, or for those that are doing oxygen testing, or some physical therapy offices may have them that cost about $300. There's no need to spend that much money on a pulse oximeter. Under $100 is great. So you can get them at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Target. I think I've even seen them at Fry's, you know, grocery stores that have pharmacies. Anywhere that there's a pharmacy should have pulse oximeters for you to purchase. Those are a great device to have when you're traveling, when you're at home, when you're not feeling good. It's always a good idea to check your oxygen level or your oxygen saturation. It's displayed in a percentage, and just see where you are. If your doctor has told you to be over 90%, You can take a quick peek and say, yeah, okay, I'm 91, good for me. But if it's below that, if it's in the 80s or even lower, that is time for you to call your doctor, or more importantly, if it's in the low 80s or 70s, call 911 immediately. Okay. So we've had some questions from patients about the ins and outs of oxygen, and just certain things that may run across your mind and say, oh, I'm not really sure about that. And these are really great questions. I always tell people that I train when I bring on a new respiratory therapist, when we work with respiratory therapy students, there is no such thing as a stupid question. I actually hate that phrase. Some people may refer to as a silly question. When it comes to your health and home care equipment and anything like that, there is no such thing as a stupid question. There are only bad actions that occur because you didn't ask those questions. And that's what we're here for, is to answer those questions and provide you with some information. So one of the questions I had was, what do you do when you're on oxygen at home to secure your tubing so you don't trip over it? Which is a great question, because if you have your oxygen concentrator in one room and you're hooked up to it, you have tubing running everywhere through the house if you have to wear it continuously. So that tubing runs with you. You have it on the floor and everything else. What I recommend is getting a small Velcro strap. You've probably seen those when you get computer equipment. You just wrap your tubing up, give yourself enough distance to get where you're going, and wrap it up, put that little Velcro strap around it, and it should alleviate a lot of the stuff that's on the floor. When you're going to head from the living room to the bedroom, you may want to unwind some more and just wrap whatever is extra up with that Velcro strap and just set it down and forget it until the next time you have to move. Unfortunately, I would love to say, oh, well, you can just tape it down to the floor, but that means anytime you move anywhere, you're going to have to untape it, and that will lead to a big mess too. So the Velcro strap is the best thing I would recommend, or just having it coiled around your feet. One thing to keep in mind too is pets. When you have a lot of oxygen tubing around, check it every once in a while just to make sure. I'm the pet mom to 2 cats, so I know they like long stringy things that lay across the floor. So you may want to check it for any chews, any chewing, any bite holes, anything like that. And if there is, you can talk to your home care company and they can replace that for you. Another question I had was, can you use a microwave while wearing oxygen? Absolutely. And if you're cooking something good in the microwave, make sure you get a hold of me so I can come over for dinner. But no, it's absolutely safe to use a microwave with oxygen. People may have heard with certain medical equipment, you shouldn't use a microwave. For instance, older pacemakers, because that can interfere with the pacemaker. But oxygen, absolutely not. There's no spark or flame unless you're putting metal in the microwave, which you shouldn't do. But there's no spark or flame that's involved in microwave cooking. So it's safe. You don't have to worry about it. Now, on the other hand, if you're cooking with gas and you have your oxygen on, that is when you need to be careful. Again, you have that flame, you have that oxygen in your nose that loves flame. So you should be very, very careful around that. Same thing with barbecuing or grilling, same thing with fire pits. So another question I got was, what helps keep your oxygen levels up? And this is one thing that I do with patients. I do with myself, being asthmatic. You may have seen another video of me talking about breathing exercises, and breathing exercises can help bring your oxygen levels up, especially in times where we're short of breath. So you can either go to the internet, you can go to our Cancer Fighters page, our Cancer Fighters YouTube channel, and you may see some videos on breathing exercises. Another good option is the American Lung Association. They have fantastic options for breathing exercises. The biggest thing we want you to focus on is slowing your breathing down. If you're struggling, your head is just going crazy, I'm panicking, I'm worrying what's going to happen. So you need to get out of that headspace and you need to focus on slow breathing. So one quick one I'll show you is what we call pursed lip breathing. And some people call it good air in, bad air out, or smelling the flowers, blowing out the candles, whatever you choose. I call it pursed lip breathing. So you're going to take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Open up those shoulders, feel that air into your chest, and then you're going to blow out like you're whistling, or the pursed lip. So usually, however many seconds that you inhale, you should exhale twice as long. And that's one of the quick ways that we can teach you how to slow your breathing down and get those oxygen levels up. Because if you feel yourself panting, those short little breaths, that air is not getting down into the base of your lungs, where the tiny little air sacs that transmit oxygen into your bloodstream, those little guys that are so important aren't getting the oxygen that they need. So by panting and struggling for breath, those, what we call alveoli, aren't opening and getting the oxygen that they need to push into your bloodstream. So by taking slower, deeper breaths, that oxygen has the ability to go to the lower parts of your lungs where what we call gas exchange occurs. So that can help your oxygen levels increase. So that's very, very important. Taking your medications, especially if you're on breathing medications, taking them as prescribed is another way. Because if you're having problems with your lungs, if you're having what we call a bronchospasm, where you're struggling to breathe because those airways are so tight, when you take those medications that are prescribed for that, that helps open them up and again, allow that oxygen to go into your bloodstream like it should. A great question we had was lotions and creams. And people think, oh, you know, it's not a fire, so it's not a big deal. Actually, it is. One of the things I strongly recommend, and you know, our therapists preach the same thing, and oxygen companies will tell you the same thing. Anything that's petroleum based. So read that label, look for the word petroleum. If there's petroleum or petroleum products, do not use that. Do not use it on your body. And most importantly, don't use it on your nose or lips, because petroleum, like oxygen, loves flame. So when you have that flame and you have some petroleum jelly on your lips, a petroleum-based lip balm on, or you put petroleum around your nose because your nose is raw, that's just opening up a window of a lot of problems, because if that catches fire for some reason, it's going to really, you know, combust or be a big fire, and you don't want that. So as far as lotions and stuff go, you can use whatever you want, just look for the word petroleum. If you even have a question about it, don't use it. You know, again, especially around the lips, the nose. Scents, you can use scented lotions just as long as it doesn't bother you. You know, that's fine too. So, and then look for alcohol-based things as well, like hand sanitizers. If you're continuously using hand sanitizers, which you shouldn't, but if you're using your hand sanitizers appropriately, that's okay. Just stay away from open flame and stay away from open flame with your oxygen. Another great question you got was that you get dry while using oxygen. So, which is absolutely 100%, it happens because you're putting a dry gas into your nose that's going into your lungs and your airways. And if you live here in the desert, if you live anywhere that's dry, it's going to even increase it tenfold. So even just being in regular areas where there's not much for dryness, you can still get really dry, even in the most humid of areas. So one thing I will recommend that you can talk to your home care company about is a humidifier. So those can, not on the tanks, absolutely not, but you can get a humidifier for your concentrator. So that will run, especially at nighttime, everything like that, that will run some humidity through a passover kind of situation. So the gas comes, here's your water, the gas comes over it, picks up those water molecules, and it goes into your nose. It shouldn't be anything excessive. You just should feel a difference. Especially if you notice nosebleeds, adding some humidity will help. Another great thing is saline spray. You can get that at the drugstore. You can find them at the grocery store, anywhere where they sell over-the-counter medications. There's different brands out there. One that pops to mind is Air. There's another one, and it's AYR. There's another one called Xlear. It's XLEAR. I think Bausch & Lomb even has some. All these different companies have saline spray. And living in the desert, that's something I do because of my asthma. I want to keep my airways nice and moist. So you can either use a nose spray. It comes in just like you would for allergies or anything. It's just a squeezable nose spray. They even have something that will shoot under mild pressure, some saline into your nose. There's just all kinds of things. There's even like a saline gel that you can put in that is not petroleum based. So you can put that in your nose too. If nosebleeds become really, really excessive, reach out to your physician or your provider, and they can help you with that as well. Drinking water is fantastic, but there's only so much water you can drink. So if your mouth and throat get dry, you may want to suck on a lozenge, sugar-free, if that's, what your doctor has prescribed or recommends. Just, do what your doctor says. If you have to adhere to a low sugar diet, then go for the sugar-free option. But lozenges do help. You can use that saline spray, and you can use a humidifier with your oxygen at home. Again, the humidifiers do not go on tanks. They do not go on portable concentrators. So because if you tilt them the wrong way, there is water in there, and you don't want that water to shoot up your nose. And we've seen that happen. So you get a nice little rude awakening from your oxygen and from the water that you have in there. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.